We explore sustainable living and holistic health and strive for progress, not perfection.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us for part two of our homeschooling discussion. If you didn't catch part one, please go back and check that out, as that's the beginning of this episode. And this goes seamlessly with this one that we're about to present. We kind of continue the discussion about how to make homeschooling work for you, some common pros and cons of homeschooling. So it's a great discussion, and we hope you enjoy it. Thanks.
I think another cool aspect of homeschooling is that, like, and I kind of mentioned it before, is that you don't have to be the end all be all educator in your home. Like, for instance, my
Yeah.
husband's good at those other things like math and physics. And like the way I see it in my brain is like he is typically off every Friday. Like he can devote like some time on his Fridays and be the instructor and do his own curriculum with them,
Yeah.
because he's their dad and like he needs to play an integral part in their life as well. And I think it's good to like mix it up and he teach them the things that he knows. Or like even like like if you have a grandparent that like has a special hobby or something, they can go learn that with them. There's so many learning opportunities everywhere around, like everywhere you look is a learning
Yes.
opportunity.
Yeah, I'm so
Every
glad you
day
brought
is
that.
take your kid to work day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. Like you would be amazed at how much your family members, husband, whoever has to offer. Like they
Hmm.
really do. They're going to bring in different ideas and things that you never think of or do or hobbies, whatever. Like they can, and then it not only that, but it gives your children a special chance to build bonds and relationships with these family members, whereas they probably would have never
Yes.
had the time to do that before. And that's really
Yes.
special too.
Yes, because again, life is short. We get one chance at this. And, our parents and family members are aging and they're not going to be around forever. And like
Yeah.
we have to try to maximize our kids' time with the people that are important in our lives. Um,
Yeah.
so any way that you can tie those in together is great.
Yeah. Or like even getting their grandparents, your parents to like just tell them stories about their childhood and their
Oh my
past.
God. Yes, I know. Like
Yeah.
those are the best. It's just like, those funny, like I love whenever you first meet somebody and you're like bopping, talking about stuff and telling each other like those funny stories that happen and stuff like that and just cool things and the things that define you as a person, and like being able for your kids to have time to sit with their grandparents or whoever and learn those things about them is
Yeah.
something that will be lifelong memories for them.
Yeah. That's super valuable.
So, like, one thing that I like think about lately is like not every kid is gonna go to college, and we don't want all the kids, everyone in this world to go to college. Like, that's like not everyone is meant for college,
Yeah.
and college isn't the end all be all decider of your future success in life. I mean, I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do when I got out of high school. I was like, I had no clue who I was or what I wanted to be. In fact, I still like, I call myself a gypsy all the time because like I love to move. I'm like my grandma. But I also am like that about work too, because like I've tried so many different things. I've tried so many different majors. I've tried so many different jobs. And you know what? Like I'm not scared to stop one thing and start another one. Like I gave
Oh
up my
yeah.
environmental career after doing the whole 4 years and all that stuff and working my way up to a good salary. I left all that behind to be a mortgage lender because I thought I would like that better. And I do, but is mortgage lending my end all be all career? Probably not.
I'm so glad you said that because, like, first of all, I think a good thing to mention is that we always think that life is a destination, and it's really just a journey, right?
Yeah.
Like, we don't need to view it as, this is what we'll become, and that's just gonna be it till I'm 60 and retire and blah blah blah. Like, how about we just tell our kids to just do what their heart desires, what makes them happy, what fulfills their life in that moment. Like they don't have to stick to a certain career forever. It's so permanent. We are creatures that change and
Hmm.
evolve And I'm the same as you. Like, I have changed my interests and desires in life so many times.
Yeah.
I mean, the person I am today is almost completely different than who I was when I graduated high school. And like you said, I had no idea what I wanted to be when I graduated high school. Went straight up to college because that's what
That's what you
in
do.
society, we've come to some kind of like, somehow we've decided that the only way to be successful is for your kids to go to college, or that your kid, if you haven't gone to college, you need your kid to be the first in the family to go to college, that is the super most honorable thing to do. And then your kid believes, like, because they want to please their parents, that they need to do that, right?
Hmm.
But it's like, first of all, sure, some people do will want to go to college. Some people are going to want to be doctors, lawyers,
Yeah.
nurses, engineers. You do have to go to college for those things. But a lot of things we don't need to go to college for, and we are going to college for, I feel. But anyway, yeah. So they're going to want to go to college, but they don't have to do it straight out of high school.
Hmm.
Like, let's give them time to just go live life, go get a shitty job and or meet people,
Go travel. Go
yeah.
travel the world and stay in shitty hostels and
Yeah.
live on like $4 a day and go trek the world and learn other cultures. Like how I like wish that I like did that when I was young
Yeah.
enough. Like
Right.
now I
Like,
can't be doing that crazy stuff.
instead, we're like telling our kids, go to college straight out of high school. Parents are going to try to help you as much
Get
as you
on the rat
can.
race.
Yeah, like, we're not, instead of them experiencing what life really is, right? Because parents are still over there paying for everything, and like, they're not really figuring out, they can't figure out who they are because they're still not truly on their own, right? They're
Yeah.
not truly experiencing things. And even if they are, it takes a while of adult living to just know what you want in life or whatever,
Or
you
maybe you'll
know?
never quite know. Like
Right,
maybe I'll never quite know what I want to do.
right.
Maybe because doing something and making money is just a means to an end.
Exactly. I love that. But like, we don't need to go get our kids in all kinds of debt and waste all kinds of money just to what? Say, oh, my kid's in college and they're going to be a lawyer, and then they end up never using that. Like, I went to college, for nursing because my dad said, go in the medical field. There's always going to be a need for that. And
Yeah.
I liked science. I loved biology. So I was like, sure, nursing will be great for me. But I hated nursing. I don't want to be a nurse at all. I never used that a day I never did anything with that. That was a
Yeah.
waste, you know? So,
It's kind of the same way I feel about like sports and like all this extracurricular stuff because like I find that parents push their kids so hard to be like this extraordinary athlete when they're so young. And it's
yeah.
like, why? Like, how many kids are actually going to be like the next like David Beckham or whatever, or any of that? Like, and
Yeah.
they're pushing them and it's like, every single day they're practicing and every single weekend you're at like an away game somewhere and it's like your life is revolving around this like sport or activity to the point where like you can't have dinner together as a family
No.
anymore. You're always stressed out, you're in debt because it's hard to afford all this expensive stuff. um and like for what? Like is your kid going to do that? Because I feel like there's probably a happy medium where if your kid is really that talented that you were able to have them somewhat in that sport but not like to this like level of like basically they're like a pro athlete when they're freaking 7 years old. Like what?
Yeah, I know. You're so right. I'm so, so glad you brought that up because that is getting out of hand. Like, first of all, I have my kids in a few sports, and I'll like only limit each kid to one sport a year at a time because I am not, like you said, like, they're always during the hours of dinner,
Yeah.
and there's just no way to eat healthy especially if you
No.
work too. You have a job and then you got to run your kids to all these practices. When are you eating? You're not. You're picking up food or you're eating frozen dinners, or I don't know what the hell you're doing. That shit's hard. I don't. That's
Yeah.
impossible. And then, yeah, it's so expensive. And then, like, what if it's just one kid that's really good at sports, and then like the other kid's just having to be toted around for all this, and they can't explore any other passions
Or
or
you have the other kid and something totally different, and now dad is doing that and you're
yeah.
doing that, and then you guys are You're not even like a couple anymore because
Right.
you're working all day and then doing that all afternoon, and then you're probably spending 10 minutes alone with your spouse.
Yes, and that's so important. Like we need relationship is more important than any of this stuff. And then like you said, 99% chance your kid nothing's going to come of all of this. Like it's not your kid's not going to be a pro athlete most likely, and
Yes.
you spent most of their childhood away from your husband in your prime years, right? Like
Yeah.
not focusing on your relationship and not truly just spending time with your kid.
Yeah, you're still not spending time with your kid. You're in the bleachers, you're watching them, and that's great that you're
Yeah,
present, but that's not the same as one-on-one time with your kid. So
right.
again, it's like you're getting rid of your kid for long periods of time. And like I get it. I get the argument of like, well, you want them to be interested in that and not interested in like be doing bad stuff. Like I get that too, but I'm saying there's got to be a happy medium
Yeah.
where you are doing some level of that, but like the everyday practice and the every weekend traveling is not, it's like I think it's devastating to our families.
Yes, I totally agree. In every
Yes.
which way, financially, emotionally, health-wise, like
Everything.
everything. And
It's not good for us to
yeah,
do
there is
that.
definitely a happy medium. Like, do one season, like a seasonal sport once a year or whatever, to make sure
Yeah.
it's fun. I think, and also, look, I've been to a lot of, like I said, my kids have been in there, and I've seen a lot of parents who I can tell are just forcing your kids to be there. So
And then
not
you're
all of these
wearing out
kids
their
want to,
bodies, like gymnasts and stuff like that. Like gymnastics are fun and great, but like it's also very bad for your body and your joints, in the
yeah,
long term. And like pushing your kids to do this crazy amount of time on it, and it's not always that the parents are pushing either. Sometimes the kids are pushing, but
yeah,
we are the parents. Like we have to
right.
set the limit. No, I'm sorry. We're already committed enough to that and we're not going to do any more of it. And I know you love it, and keep that passion alive, and just when you're old enough, if that's what you want to pursue as like a professional or whatever,
Yeah,
then you go for it. But like we're not going to spend your whole childhood doing whatever.
yeah, definitely. Such a great point.
And then it's like, well, I guess we should have talked about that earlier, is you can your kids can be so smart academically in high school, but they don't know how to like do the basic foundations of our life. Like, how many people do you know that can't even cook? I'm like, how
Yeah.
have you gotten this far? Cooking is like the most important thing in our life. We like have to eat.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like that is the most important. Like, that, like in my whole health journey, like I forgot who said it, like, or where I read it or heard it, but like, in the, in most, except for like maybe the past 100 years, gathering food, getting food and cooking was what life was centered around, right?
Yeah.
Like that's all we did. That's what that was everything, and that rightfully so. And now, like eating and cooking is such an inconvenience to us. Like that's just like an afterthought. But yeah, it's
No.
like so our kids like they graduate valedictorian, but they don't know how to cook. They don't know how to wash their own clothes because they've been studying all the time.
Yeah,
All right.
they don't know how to go grocery shopping and like how much quantities of things that they need to sustain them for a week, you know?
Yeah, to budget.
Um, how to, like, you have one here, how to build credit, like credit
Yeah,
and taking care of financing and being financially literate and understanding all that stuff, and credit cards and how debt works and how to buy a house and
so
so many
important.
things
And
that
then
like,
healthy communication,
yes.
taking care of your physical and mental health. I think healthy communication is a big one. You know, Nobody
how to
learns that.
admit how to admit when you're wrong, how to not even admit when you're wrong, how to be introspective and
Yeah,
understand the way that you impact other people.
exactly. Yes, like that needs to be learned. That should be like one of the first things we learn, you
Yeah, and like
know?
we're obsessing about freaking multiplication tables, and our kids don't even know how their actions impact other people and how to say
Yeah.
they're sorry and how to mean that.
Yeah, how to resolve an argument with someone you love and care
Yes.
about.
Yes.
Those are important things.
That's the important, like multiplication tables, like who cares? I have a calculator on my phone, but my phone can't
Yeah.
tell me when to shut up and stop arguing with my husband and say I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Stop
Exactly.
digging myself in a deeper hole.
I know, and that's probably why we are the way that we are, because nobody taught us this shit.
We're all trying to figure it out. But
Yes.
that's the gift of it. We can figure it out and we can show our kids, and they don't have to live as hard of a life as we live. They'll live a different life and have their own challenges, but it won't be these.
Yes, it's definitely time to change our education system, to change our whole everything about the way we live. I think we've definitely, with the whole industrial revolution and everything, like we really have gotten a lot of things backwards. Maybe it was meant well in the beginning, but we know better now, and it's time, to know better and do better.
Yes,
And
I
but like not everybody can homeschool, so that's what we're talking about here. There's also they have the Hannah Frankman podcast, which I have a few resources listed at the end. Um, that she talks about a lot of different alternative education that's coming out now. Like there's so many people opening up newer schools that are more focused on this type of learning,
hmm
which is there's millions of different types of learning, but they even have like these people opening these schools where the kids just go and they hang out with all the different age groups. There's no formal learning. They play board games together, and the older ones, they learn how to read by reading the instructions they learn from the older kids. Just schools like that, or whatever you're looking for, right? Like there are options out there. They have online stuff, basically, and even if you work, you can, like I said, if you have time to do homework after work, you have time to do homeschool. It's more of, do you have someone to watch your kids, you
yeah,
know?
because like yeah, I mean, if you're staying home, then your kids are home for the entire day, and so you have to deal with that.
Yeah.
That's the part
But
of
like,
homeschool, and that's hard.
yeah, but if you're working, it's like, it's not really that you don't have time to homeschool. It's that you probably just need someone to watch your kids while you're at work,
Yes,
you
so
know?
it's like there's so I guess with working, there's definite changes that have to be made. Like you and your spouse are gonna have to like get creative about how to make it work. Not everyone is blessed enough to like just not like, oh, I don't have to work anymore. I mean, I guess like in some cases, if you're gonna plan to send your kid to private school, like you can think of it as like that money that you're paying for that
Yeah.
is coming out of your salary. So it's like, maybe it doesn't make a sense for me to work if like all my money is going towards putting them in this private school or whatever. But,
Yeah.
that's not always the case. In some cases, that's true. But you might have to, live life differently. You might have to downsize your house to be able to afford to live a different way, or maybe you don't need two cars. I mean, that's hard, but like there might
But
have to
yeah,
be
that
some creative things that come out of it to make it work.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people out there doing things like that. Like I'm trying to lower our standard of living to live differently. And a lot of people are like they're giving up things in life so that they can have to have a one parent home,
hmm
to be a one
And
income
like,
family again.
or like for me, yeah, I didn't know at the time that this is what was taking place, but to find a job that you can be home and
Yeah.
also do a job. So like I couldn't do that with my old job, but with mortgage lending, I'm able to do work while the girls eat breakfast, and I'm able to take calls and step away from them for a couple minutes. And in some cases, like I'll tell them like, hey, sorry, like my kid, you might hear my kids in the background. And guess what? Like no one even cares.
Yeah,
Like
because you
no
know
one
what,
is bothered by that.
people are starting to become more understanding of these things, you
Yeah.
know?
It's like and then I tell them I'm a stay-at-home mom. I have twins that I raised, and they're like, and you do this too? I'm like, yes, and I have a podcast and I have an Airbnb. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, like I have different things that I'm able to do and simultaneously watch my kids at the same time. I'm not gonna say it's not stressful at times, and I'm not gonna say that some weeks I'm like, girls, we're just watching TV and I just gotta lay down and chill
Yeah.
because like I'm burned out. But
Yeah.
that's life.
Exactly. I have those weeks too. I think we all do. But yeah, I think a lot of people could make it happen if they tried. Of course, there's always going to be some people who really just can't,
Yes,
but
and that's understandable too, but maybe you can do some other educational stuff on the side,
yeah.
or find like there's lots of resources out there, and there's some people that do homeschooling like in their house with a very small amount of kids, and like maybe that could be a way
Yeah.
to like do that too. Um But there's some creative ways that you can come around, and I'm sure like you can look online and there's lots of people that talk about their creative ways that they've
Oh yeah.
overcome this battle.
Yeah, and there's so many like homeschool Facebook groups where you can ask questions like that and see what they're doing.
Oh yeah, and speaking of resources, there's so many resources. I mean, from curriculum, there's every single kind of curriculum that you can possibly imagine geared towards every single niche interest,
Oh yeah.
basically. There's like stuff on Etsy for materials. There's Facebook groups. There's co-ops with like classes. Like if like in high school to do like chemistry labs. Like obviously, I can't give my kid a chemistry lab, but you
Yeah.
can actually do co-ops that they like go to high schools or colleges or whatever and like practice in chemistry labs. So
Yeah,
there's just so many things out there.
definitely. Like there yeah. You can find pretty much anything. There if there's a will, there's a way. You'll find
I
a
will say
way.
that I feel like you have to have a printer, right?
Huh? Oh, for homeschooling? I mean,
Yeah.
I never use my printer for homeschooling,
Really?
but I a lot of people do, but like I do buy a curriculum. It just it's so diverse how people teach in different ways. Like
Yeah, some people
there's
don't do like
people
workbooks and stuff.
yeah, like there's a lot of people who don't even buy curriculum. Like they strictly only teach through life things, like through cooking and whatever, going to the museums and so forth. I at this point in time and I do buy a curriculum. I find it simple. It's the good and the beautiful. It's it's just simple and it's quick, it's easy, it touches on the topics and we're done with it. You know what I mean? And then the rest of our learning is in life. But
Yeah.
I like to stick to have a curriculum just to make sure the basics are met so that I don't have to sit there and think about it, like, oh, did I teach them this or
Yeah.
whatever? Like I like it's there and I don't have to think about it because
And
it
then you
just
could also buy a curriculum or three and decide what parts you want to go by. You don't
yeah,
have
like
to
you don't have
do
to
the
use
whole
the whole
thing.
thing. Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
people don't. They'll just skip through things, like especially like their kid may know this already or like they don't feel it's important or whatever,
Yeah.
like and they yeah, they have so much.
They have
And
like
then the good and
religious
the
curriculums, like everything you can think of.
yeah, and the good and the beautiful, they even offer their math and English free in PDF form,
Oh,
which is
really?
awesome.
Yeah, so then you could just get free stuff too.
Yeah,
You also don't have to invest a lot of money in
right.
curriculum or in homeschooling because like today I was listening to the book and she was saying how much it costs like raise a kid. But a lot of that is like keeping up the Joneses because your kids have to have a
Mm-hmm.
good outfit to go to school and they need school clothes every year and uniforms and backpacks and supplies and
Yes.
the schoolroom needs supplies. They need Kleenexes and all this other stuff and it's like you don't have to like spend money on that stuff. You could do a curriculum that's like focused on just going outside and discovering and using the resources around you. Like you don't have to like buy little things to teach
Yeah.
lessons.
Yeah, like we feel like we need all these little things. Like you really don't. You don't need all of these little hands-on, like little manipulatives, all these little
Like little dinosaurs in different colors to like
yeah.
teach whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you could just grab toys out of your kid's room or just go outside, count leaves, rocks, whatever. It
Count
does
like pasta shells,
Yeah.
like grains of rice. Mike's mom used to teach him with beans. I think that's what he said. She taught him math with beans in the kitchen. So it's just
hmm
like it could be anything. Like literally, like your imagination is your only limit.
Oh yeah. Like I love hearing like all these cool creative things these homeschool moms come up with. Like I haven't like I feel like I'm not as creative as some of these moms, but I also don't devote all of my time to homeschool. Like homeschooly-ish things. That's not a word, but you know what I mean? Like I feel like a lot
Yeah,
of these moms are spending a lot and you don't have to be like that though. I feel like
yeah,
a lot of moms think like, "Oh, I'm not like that kind of mom. I'm not either." But I think I'm still pretty like I'm doing really good teaching my kids. They're doing great. My kids might not even be those kind of kids because I'm not. I haven't taught them I don't know if you thought like
yeah.
if
You
I'm
have to do what's best for like you have to find the curriculum and the teaching style that's
yeah.
best for your kids, but also what's best for you because there's there's multiple people in this equation, and you guys both have to be happy to be able to make it successful.
Right. Like make sure you're focusing on what makes your family happy and what works for your family. Because the past 3 years, like I said, like this year, I'm finally getting in my groove to where I'm confident in my ability and who I am as a homeschooled mom. Because the past 3 years, I constantly compared myself to the other homeschool moms and what
Mm,
they were doing. And I was like, oh God, like I'm not doing enough. I'm not creative enough. I'm not making this as great of an experience as they are, and that like would bother me so much. Or I would think I kept getting back into that school structured mind frame where I'm like, oh, they're not at the same pace as the kids their age at school, or you
yeah.
know they're not. And I just constantly felt like we needed to keep up. And my brain has finally accepted that that's okay. Like we're all different, and that my kids are happy with what we're doing. They're learning
Mm,
with what we're doing, and we don't have to be at the same pace as the other kids. I know they're really smart. They show me how smart they are all the time, and we're gonna learn everything we need to know. And we could just take our time, and I'm finally there, and just don't compare and just know that you're not
comparison
going to have
is
it all
the
figured out.
comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah, it is.
I guess my big thing is like I've already kind of struggled with socialization for my girls because they were born in COVID. And at the time, Mike and I were super paranoid about COVID. We were very like masky and vaccinations and all that stuff. Now, since then, I kind of don't feel the exact same way about it as I used to. But because of that time frame, I think, and just I think because of the girls' natural personalities of being very introverted, and also Mike and I, well, Mike's very introverted, and I like kind of border sometimes whether I'm introverted or extroverted. Um, but they just are not super into other kids that are their age. Like they love teenagers. They're obsessed with teenage girls. But to put them in a room with another 4-year old, like they don't necessarily want to be around them as much. And so I worry about the socialization aspect of it.
Yeah, like I think that's probably like when you say you homeschool, that's the first thing somebody's going to say is, but what about socialization? So that is like such a huge myth. So, first of all, in school, our kids really aren't socializing that much if you think about it. They're sitting in a classroom, they're forced to be quiet. They can't really even talk to each other. They're only around kids their age. They go to, I don't know about everywhere, but I know around here they get like one recess and it's like 15 minutes long. And that's pretty much the only time that they get to really socialize. I think a lot of times, even in the cafeteria, they can't talk, and even if they can, that's not a long period of time. They're not even up and moving either. They're very limited in what you could even do. So I don't even see where school socializes kids at all. And with homeschool, most places have these really wonderful homeschool communities. And of course, it is up to you to be involved in them. The first 2 years I homeschooled, I'm introverted. I'm very introverted. I don't like putting myself out there to meet new people. I like the extroverts to come find me. you know? And that wasn't gonna happen. And I knew I needed to like get my kids out there and part of a community, right? I had them in a few extracurriculars, but I didn't feel enough. But yeah, you have to go find there's gonna be Facebook groups, there's co-ops, and like I said, like we have our Lego club every Friday. We have PE, homeschool PE every Friday. We have poetry in the park every one Tuesday every month. And then we have forest school, which I think is on a Tuesday once a month, every Tuesday of like one Tuesday of the month. And art class, I don't know if I mentioned that, but you get the idea. And then I've made friends with a lot of these moms. Like I've really found my tribe, and we'll do little, play dates in between. So
Yeah.
my kids, a lot of times, like last year, we were socializing more than we did lessons. Like they're really socialized, and they're with all age groups, and they have the freedom to just play and be
Yeah.
themselves. And so there's a huge difference also. If you're at the park and it's a school day, so all the public school or school kids are at school. So it's mostly homeschoolers there. There's a huge difference in how well homeschool kids play together than when you have the school kids there too. Well,
Yeah.
like we talked about that before, me and the other moms, like you can tell when there's school kids there because there's always problems. Not to put them down, I'm just saying like homeschool kids, they're just they know
I,
how to act, I guess. I don't
they're
know, like
more
they
like in tune,
yeah, like
I
they're
think.
used to being around other kids their age. They're used to playing and getting along.
They're
It's
not as
not
combative, and I feel like part of them not being as combative is because they're not as advanced, and like typically when kids, I mean, I find when kids get more advanced, like sexually and
yeah,
and violence and stuff like that, that makes them more aggressive,
and
like,
competitive
and
and bullying.
competitive and violent and like pushing. Like my kids are 4 and like they've never hit each other ever because we don't watch TV. They don't even like really know what that is. Like why would they know how to hit? Like I don't
Yeah.
hit them. They don't see anybody hitting anybody. So they don't even know, they don't think to do that. But like most kids, by the time they're like 2 years old, are already hitting,
Yeah.
because they watch TV shows with it, or I don't even know why. But like, kids just like have this natural tendency to like be violent.
Yeah. And yeah, like school age kids, they're just like it's all about being cool and fitting in. There's a lot of bullying and
Yeah.
that'll when you throw that in the mix, the kids don't get along as well. And like these homeschool kids, they don't I can't say all the time, but I mean from what I've experienced, they get along. They're not judgmental, they're very inclusive, you know, and it's really great. Like it's a really great community and they're socialized in the best way,
Yeah.
should I say. So that really shouldn't be a concern. They can be as social as you want them to be.
Yeah, there's so many things. Even the libraries have like story times and arts and
Yeah.
crafts, and they have it for different age groups. And gymnastics has like a homeschooling hour. Dance
Yeah.
classes usually have a homeschool hour. Um, so you just have to like get out and search for your area. If you're in Louisiana, like I'm happy to send some resources to you as well, on some different things that are available.
Yeah, especially like in the Homa, Thibodeau area have resources as well.
So I guess
Oh,
another thing that some people worried about is like reporting to the state or being allowed to even do this. And I know like in some countries they don't, it's like not even allowed to homeschool your kids. Like
yeah.
in Germany and Denmark, you can't even do that. But in the United States, it's completely legal for you to homeschool your kids.
Yeah. It's different by state. Some states have different requirements. Like I think California and some other states require you to show them some kind of
Oh, like documentation of what you taught them or
yeah,
whatever.
and maybe some testing, but it
Yeah,
depends on
some
your
places
state.
require standardized tests.
Yeah. But
And
I
probably
think
if you want your kids to get in college, they're gonna have to take those.
well so that's what I wanted to talk about. So for the most part, most states are really lax. Louisiana is one of them. I'm gonna get into that a little further. There's two options. You have non-public, not seeking state approval, and then you have home study. Most people do the first, not the non-public, not seeking state approval. Home study is more of doing like a public school style at home. You can still well, I'll cover the details, but basically all we have to do at the beginning of the school year is go online to this site and you're signing a document promising to teach your kid for 180 days a year and that's it. Nobody's checking up on you. You don't have to do any tests or anything like that. You're in complete control of what you're teaching your kids and when, where, how, everything.
Hmm.
Um so as far as college, a lot of times it either way, no matter which one now I'm sticking to Louisiana for this because I can't speak for all the other states. You have to
Yeah.
find out, but I think a lot of states are probably very similar to this. um if you're either way, they're not going to get a diploma. The diploma will be issued by the parent, but that doesn't matter. I think a lot of people think that you can't get accepted into colleges. You can still get accepted into any college with your parent issued diploma because you there's like you're good to get into a college. You have to take tests, right? Like placement tests and things like that. Now if you want top scholarship, a lot of people will switch to the home study option for the last 2 years of homeschooling, and that way that they can apply for tops if
Yeah.
you're wanting that. But so
Hmm.
you can still even get a top scholarship even though you're doing homeschool. You just might have to, and it says might. So what it says here is, like, I have this little graph here. Basically, it's for a registered non-public, not seeking state approval. You register online or by mail. The curriculum is the parent's choice in entirety. Accreditation is meaningless to BESE.
Meaning
I
you
don't
don't
know
have
what
to
B.
have any sort of like
Yeah.
license or accreditation to do it.
Yeah, BESE does not approve your curriculum. For renewal, you just renew yearly online or by mail. You may choose any start date, but it is helpful to renew in August when school starts so you don't forget. And then diploma, parents issue the diploma for their child. BESE or LADOE, which is the Louisiana Department of Education, does not issue any homeschool diploma. Then for home study, it's basically the same for registration and curriculum, but renewal, it says renewal yearly. Upon renewal, you will submit documentation in either portfolio, two samples of each ELA, math, science, social studies, and a letter from the teacher certified to teach that level, and test results.
Hmm. I wonder why you
But the,
would do that way.
Yeah, see, for me, I'm not gonna do home study for the last 2 years. I'm not interested in the top scholarship
Oh,
because,
that's why. So you get tops.
yeah, yeah. Other than that, I don't know why anybody would do it at all. Uh,
Yeah.
but
The only
even
way I
so,
think in other states, like I think maybe in California, if you do something like that, like you can actually like get money because like we pay
oh,
taxes to like the school district, but you're not like utilizing it. And I think maybe in other states you might actually be able to utilize some of that tax money
maybe so.
possibly, but
I
I'm not
know like
sure.
a lot
Don't
of the
quote me.
parents kind of frown upon that, like in the homeschool community, because our whole goal really
Just to
is
not
to keep
do
the
that.
government out of our business, right? And the more you allow the government to help you, the more they're in your business. And
Hmm.
that's kind of just like the whole goal is to keep them out of our kids' education.
Yeah.
But, it's whatever you want to do. But yeah, so we aren't, like, for me personally, I'm not going to do that because I had tops, and if you don't use it if you don't go to college straight out of
Oh
high school,
yeah,
you
then you
lose
lose
that
it.
anyway, right? And I don't
That's
even want,
true.
if my kids want to go to college, that's fine, but I'm going to encourage them to not go straight out of high school. Um, Especially if I'm paying for it.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, because I feel just like with the education and not pushing them to grow up too fast, it's the same thing when you're 18 years old. You're growing up too fast to try to like get in a career. You already have to work so late anyway to survive
Yeah.
that you know, that the more time you can figure out yourself, the better off you are. And I feel
I
like
mean,
there's things that you should be doing at that time that doesn't involve putting your nose to the grindstone.
how many people do you know that went to college straight out of high school and continued with the initial major they chose?
Oh God,
I mean, who?
nobody. Mike.
And yeah, there are some. Yeah, there are gonna be some, but that is so rare.
And he's in
Like,
the same job he's had since he graduated college and like has no desire. He loves it. He
yeah, he
does not
loves
want to
it.
change. It's like his thing. So I mean, that's crazy though. No, almost I that he's the only person I know.
Yeah, probably. Like, because that is so rare. Like, usually everyone always changes their mind. You end up being in college for longer because you're changing it so many times and, wasting money. So, but yeah, so you don't, I guess, at least in Louisiana, there's really almost no reporting to the state
And
except for
there's
that one little
no
thing.
approvals like you don't need any certifications or anything like that. So
Right.
like
Which is
it's
great. That's what we want.
yeah. So, some pros for homeschooling obviously, freedom. You don't have to answer to anyone, you don't have to do homework, tests. specific curriculums, dates. You don't have to follow a certain time. Like school has to be from this time to this time. You can travel as much as you want to travel. You could do you, boo.
Oh, yeah. Like for example, my husband works out of town a lot, and what's been so great about homeschooling is that when he's out of town and he misses us or whatever, or we miss him, we could just go. We could just go be with him in his hotel room. Like there's nobody stopping us, you know.
Yeah.
Total freedom.
Yep. You can do whatever you want. Kids, typically are not like living in fight or flight mode. There's not a lot of bullying in the homeschool community because parents are more hands-on.
Yeah, you're
Whenever
there.
you're a parent and you're not hands-on with your kids, and you're not constantly working on relationship and stuff like that, then like kids like they just tend to get bullied like in that mentality. It's just the way their brains are. It's like
Right.
fighting off the weak, and the
Mm-hmm.
strongest survive. It's just that's just what happens. It's not that like you're a bad parent necessarily, but
Yeah.
when in the homeschool community, parents are hands on because that's what we've chosen. And so you tend to have kids that don't act like that as much.
And the parents are also there. Like you're there
Yeah, you're
for
watching and
PE.
you're like, hey, stop being a jerk.
Yeah, exactly. Like the parents are there to keep their kids in line and answer for whatever's going on, you know?
Yeah,
So that makes a huge difference.
yes. Oh, a big one. You can control what your children eat. So we're like psychos, and I
Yeah.
like don't want my kids to even have the ability to eat bad stuff. I don't really think that well, they probably would,
Yeah.
but
Especially if they see others,
yeah, if
others
they see other
eating.
kids eating it,
Yeah, like
then
and then the lunches, which
oh
obviously I
my
guess you
God.
could bring your kids on lunch, but like just to mention it, like the lunches they feed the kids these days are like complete shit. Like
It's
when I
like
was in
absolute
school,
garbage.
yeah, like I remember enjoying lunch at school. Like I couldn't wait. Like we had gumbo, we had like red beans and rice, we had it was really good buns. Not that any of that crap is actually healthy, but it was yummy. And it was like
It was
home
at
good.
least like home cooked meals.
Yes.
Nowadays, it's like chicken nuggets,
Oh,
canned vegetables, like
pizzas and
pizzas,
just
just
funky
like the most
hot
like low
dogs.
grade food you can possibly eat. And like
Yeah.
if there's like a lot of Instagram reels and stuff that they show like other countries and how their kids are eating, and it like is staggeringly like atrocious. These other
Yeah.
kids are eating like a piece of brie with a baguette and like a piece of fish, and like our kids are eating like poison out of like landfill practically.
I know, like it's really, really sad.
It is. You get to enjoy watch your children live their childhood.
Yeah.
That like you cannot ever get that back. It's amazing spending time with your kids and learning who they are and helping mold who they're going to be.
And you get to experience them learning new things, discovering new ideas and passions, becoming the person they're gonna be.
Yep.
Um,
Learning at their own pace, less stress, less pressure.
which is like
Um,
everything.
Getting
You know.
out of this like rat race that we're in and taking hold of what's really important in our lives, which is with our connections with other beings that are
Yes.
important to us.
Teaching them to
Um,
slow down, because
yes.
that's something we all need to learn. We've all, like you said, we're in this damn rat race and it's just like contagious. Like we just all are moving so fast to be able to teach our kids to just slow down and take it all in. And we don't like it doesn't, we don't need all this money. We don't need a hustle, hustle, hustle. We could just slow down, be happy, be free, be with the people we love. And
Yeah.
that it doesn't have to be so crazy and difficult.
And then kids' education, being able to be catered towards them. If you have a kid that has special needs and needs special attention and needs to learn a different way than what the schools teach them, like you're like as a parent, you are their best resource for that and understanding what they need to succeed and growing with them and figuring out what's holding them back. No one else is going to be able to figure out that for them the way that you can, or have the time to do it or any of that stuff. So you
Yeah.
can go by what their needs are and what their passions are. So those are great pros, but obviously there's some cons with it as well. It's not all like butterflies and rainbows. I know one thing is like needing time off and like being absolutely exasperated with my kids and like
Yeah.
needing a break
It,
and not being able to deal with their shit.
especially if you don't have a good support system, so
Yes.
if you don't have a good support system, that could make this more difficult for you.
Yeah, for
Um,
your single parents, it's going to be
single
very
working mothers,
challenging to
yeah.
do this. Or fathers.
Yeah, or fathers. But like I said, it's not impossible,
You
but
might have
you
to
just
think
have to be
outside the
more
box.
creative. Yeah.
Yes. You know, uh, their kids are gonna have tantrums and breakdowns, and they're gonna fight you some days, some weeks, and some months. They're gonna fight you and beat you down.
Yeah. And yeah, they really beat you down, and it's rough and it's stressful. But then on the other hand, once you come out of that on the other side, it's actually like you learn to work through that together,
Hmm.
teaching you and your kid a valuable lesson. But it's still difficult, so it's like, you gotta decide if you want to deal with that.
Yeah. Another con is that you have to be more intentional with building a community and a social environment for your kid. It's not just going to be handed to you. You're going to have to go out of your way to find things that interest you and interest your kids and interact with other moms that you might not necessarily like want to or, be drawn to or whatever. But for the sake of your kids, they need to have friends and it's easier, to put yourself out there to make those connections easier for your
Yep.
kid.
And to take more responsibility for your child's schedule, routine, and just life in general.
Hmm.
Like when they're in school, it's just you wake up, you catch the bus. The rest of their day is pretty much made out for you. You don't have to be in control of any of that. So when your kid's home, you have to, just because you're homeschooling, you can't just, it's not like everything's just all willy nilly. You do have to have some kind of structure and routine, or nothing's really going to get done.
Hmm.
It still needs to be productive. And
Yeah.
I mean, living life together, I mean, it doesn't have to be super structured and routine at all, but as long as but basically, like, you can't let your kids sleep in all day, play video games, and
Yeah.
do nothing productive.
You have to
So
take control of the day.
yeah, if you actually want to get the most out of this experience.
Hmm. All right, so I think that's great. And then the next topic we're going to talk about is some resources that are good for you to start this chapter.
Yeah, like we said, The Wild and Free, what is it? It's
The Call of the Wild and Free.
yeah, by Ainsley Arment.
It's
Um,
really good. It's good on audio. I really like it.
yeah, and very affordable. Like if you gotta listen to that book if you want to even consider homeschooling. I highly encourage it. And then this one I haven't read yet, but I'm about to borrow it from another homeschool mom so I can read it. They don't have I really wanted it to be on audio so I didn't have to actually sit and read it. But The Underground History of American Education by John Taylor Gatto. I think that that's going to really open a lot of people's eyes, which of course I didn't read it, but I I've learned a lot through this journey. So I'm pretty sure it's going to open a lot of people's eyes to the fact that the way our education system is structured is not necessary, right? Like,
Hmm.
because a lot of people still think that we need to do school that way, and I think that this book will open your eyes to how flawed it is and that it's completely unnecessary.
And also, The Call of the Wild and Free is like very good at setting your mind at ease that it's a
Yeah.
good choice as well.
And then when I first started to do homeschooling and I didn't know anything at all, of course, I got online and started researching and I came across the homeschoolmom.com, and that is a really great resource. I mean, it's like a blog, and they break down everything. I mean,
Hmm.
deschooling, unschooling, all the different types of curriculums and things you can do. Like any homeschool question you have, you could answer through that. And it's just very, very resourceful and needed. Just check it
Yes,
out.
the Wild and Free podcast. There's a Facebook group.
Yeah.
Um, In Louisiana, there's a Facebook group for like the co-ops. And the North Shore Home Educators Association is one that I just joined that has a lot of stuff like activities and stuff like that that you can put your kids in. I'm sure
Yeah.
there's lots of podcasts out there about it.
Yeah.
The Hannah
Yeah, there's probably so
Frankman.
many podcasts. These are just the ones that I've listened to. And the Hannah Frankman podcast, that's the one I mentioned earlier that kind of talks about a lot of new innovative education techniques in schools and ideas and things people are doing. Sometimes she'll even have like a child who's graduated from homeschooling and is doing big things in the world and just really cool stuff.
But yeah, don't sleep on Facebook for communities and Instagram for ideas. Like so many
Yeah,
different things out there.
I couldn't be part of the homeschool community around here without Facebook. So I mean, if you're not on Facebook, that'd be kind of hard because that's how I link up with all of the homeschool events going on and all of the homeschool groups and
Yeah,
other homeschool moms and everything. So that's a very important resource as well.
absolutely. All right, guys, this was such a good episode. We are really into this, obviously, you can tell. I'm gonna finish reading my book, and I'll also have another one by Ainsley Arment that I need to read that I got from the library. So very excited to kind of start that, and um, so glad that you guys were able to join us today, and we really appreciate. We hope that you like, subscribe, share with a friend. Let us know if you want to talk about it. We can share resources. We're absolutely happy to do that.
Or like any questions you might have or ideas for other topics that you might want us to talk about.
Hmm.
Please share your ideas.
Yep. All right, guys. Thanks so much for being here. See you
Bye.
next time. Bye.